Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Matchroom is set to try 9 p.m. start time for main events in the coming year. A good idea. Matchroom promoter Eddie Hearn has revealed that he will explore earlier main event start times in 2025. Hearn was talking to IFL after Terry Harper's points victory over Rhiannon Dixon in Sheffield, a main event that saw a comparatively earlier finish to the show after several undercard fights went short. It wasn't intentional tonight. We had some early stoppages, but it's so much better, said Hearn. I just feel like everyone leaving here tonight has gone, oh, 10 o'clock, we could stop for a pint, or we could go for a bite to eat, or we could just go home and have a good night's kip. Hearn had already told Boxing Scene that he and his team were looking to do things differently next year. Next week, we begin all our meetings at the HQ about how we're going to change the shows for 2025. One of the big things is a 9 p.m. main event, guaranteed, or as close to guaranteed as possible. What a difference it makes, Hearn added. Historically, boxing has always dragged on till like 10:15, 10:30, 10:45, 11 p.m. main event. So one of the things I really like about the UK shows, not just Matchrooms, but Boxers or Queensberry's, is that here in America, the show wraps in the evening. The Saudi shows too, because a lot of the Saudi shows are intended to accommodate a UK audience, a UK time zone. And I appreciate that I get to watch these matches while I'm alert and awake. So if they're running late in the UK, I really don't notice it. I notice it the most during Toprank shows. We'll get to those. So I really wasn't aware that the shows in the UK were running late, and it might be better to have them wrap a bit earlier. It's a fantastic idea for the aforementioned reasons. It gives the people that are there time to do something else that night. Maybe go grab a bite, go grab a pint, get some ass.
Vulva.
Get a blowjob.
Yeah.
Boxing matches do run awfully late, needlessly late, I'd say, as the night wears on and the alcohol, the pints start to set in. Wouldn't it be better if it were a fresh audience?
Like I said, I noticed that most here in America with top-ranked shows. So the Michaela Mayer versus Sandy Ryan fight ran well into the wee hours of the night. I think the girls weren't officially in the ring until 12:15, 12:30.
That's a regular occurrence with top-ranked shows, these very late ring walks. But that one, I mean, they were on the East Coast, for crying out loud. They were at the Hulu Theater.
Sometimes it's negligible, sometimes. If a fight is happening on the West Coast, it might seem late to the people on the East Coast, but to the people on the West, which are 3 hours behind,
it's not as late. Though this fight, this Sandy Ryan versus Michaela Mayer fight, why are the fighters making their ring walks at 12:15 or 12:30?
you have to consider the demographic of people that are watching boxing. What are we talking about? People in their 30s, mid-30s, 40s, 50s?
That's late for them. That's late. 11 o'clock, 12:30. Now, I don't know that a change has to be as dramatic as a main event that starts at 9. I would understand a main event that starts no later than 10, maybe 11, but no later than that, because the fight itself is about 36 minutes, and that's after the national anthems and all the pleasantries.
Now, if they could pull off a main event that starts at 9 and wraps no later than 10, that would be amazing.
But I would understand and I would be accepting of a main event that starts at 10 or 11 for top-ranked shows. As it pertains to Matchroom, I guess they got the message.
They understand.
Maybe it's a different infrastructure, slight differences. Top Rank being in bed with ESPN, ESPN has other content that they're trying to accommodate, which may affect the placement of their boxing shows, their boxing cards. Whereas Matchroom,
on DAZN.
they might have a little bit more say and a bit more wiggle room to change things up a bit. Matchroom on DAZN are the ones talking about implementing these changes, but it's Top Rank on ESPN that needs to. I suppose this conversation also hinges on Top Rank's future on that particular platform, as their network deal with ESPN is set to be up next year. We don't know with any certainty that ESPN will renew. To that, Todd Duboff of Top Rank, he talked about it.
Where do you stand right now, and what do you think are the prospects long-term for your company's relationship with ESPN? Because you guys have been in business since about, 2018. Where do things stand right now in your view?
Well, we're in the last year of our contract. Things are good with them. We're going to be talking to them and other people in the marketplace. And it's, too early to say where we're going or what we're doing, but we're excited about what we've done. I think that, to me, has been the most important thing, is like bringing quality fights, broadly distributed network, and we'll see if we're going to be in a partnership with one media partner. Two, we're seeing multiple media partners being played out. You're seeing that in, if it was NASCAR, if you see it in basketball now, you see the NFL has 5 media partners. You're seeing streamers, legacy media. So we're excited to be in the sports business, and we're excited to bring new content to everybody. And whatever the platforms are, this is the process we're starting now.
In so many words, what Todd Duboff said was, they could continue on ESPN, and they could continue with someone else, an additional broadcast partner. Now, I don't rule that out.
We see that Netflix has taken some interest in boxing. They're the ones footing the bill for the big Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight and the co-main event, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. That costed them a few million, but they've got it.
Netflix has grown so much since their inception. Over 200 million subscribers worldwide. So is it possible that a Top Rank could do business with them?
I wouldn't rule it out. Like I said, they seem to have some interest in boxing.
And Top Rank has been economically responsible on ESPN. They didn't blow off their money.
Bust their budget trying to accommodate some cockamamie fighter's ego by overpaying him. They've been responsible.
Fiscally responsible. How do you know? Well, for starters, Top Rank doesn't put on anywhere near as many pay-per-views as, say, the PBC.
Even DAZN puts on more pay-per-views than they do.
Where Top Rank has made a conscious effort to hold off on billing fights as pay-per-views because they likely understand you're cutting off a sizable portion of the audience at large by putting fights behind a paywall. Case in point, this weekend's fight, Better B versus Bivol, that's part of your regular ESPN Plus subscription.
No additional charge, no paywall.
So long as you subscribe to ESPN, you can see it. And delivering those metrics to the platform, that's the assignment. That's the job. That's why they give you a budget, in the hopes that your content will draw eyes to their platform. The Sandy Ryan and Michaela Mayer fight did.
In spite of running so late, the metrics were actually very good.
So we'll see what the future holds and whether or not Top Rank will continue on ESPN. Will they go somewhere else altogether? Will they go to Netflix? Would they go to DAZN? That wouldn't be bad. All that boxing in one place.
At one price, instead of having to subscribe to so many different platforms for all the different boxing.
Different promotions. It's a little too soon to tell what will happen, but the people at Top Rank, they know what they're doing. That's why they've been in business longer than everybody else.
See what happens.
In men's featherweight news, on the heels of a successful homecoming, a victorious Nick Ball is eyeing a Ray Vargas rematch and a Naoya Inoue showdown. Saudi Arabia. Controversial draw against WBC champion Vargas, followed by Ball winning his belt by defeating Raymond Ford from afar. His loyal supporters turned up in their thousands to Liverpool's M&S Bank Arena to support one of their own. The 27-year-old couldn't believe the reception he got after fighting in the city's iconic venue for the first time, after previously boxing in nightclubs and halls elsewhere in the city.
It's one thing the UK is very good at. Developing that grassroots following so that by the time a fighter is fighting for an alphabet title, ready to win one and ready to defend one, they already have a following.
I feel like we need to see more of that here in the United States. Matchroom is doing a good job of that with Jaron Ennis in Philly, where he's set to fight for the second time this year. Now back over to Nick and his homecoming. It hasn't even sunk in, Ball told Boxing Scene. It's crazy to think how far I've come. I've always dreamed of it, knowing it was going to happen, with the right backing, the right team around me, the right promoter, Team Queensberry. They've made it happen and brought boxing back to Liverpool. Massive night, and I can't thank them enough. It's the start of something new. I'm world champion, but bringing the boxing back to Liverpool at the M&S Bank Arena, it's where everyone wants to come. I feel like this is only the start. Many more nights to come here.
It's not like Liverpool hasn't been shelling out champion-level boxers, because they have. Callum Smith was a champion at 168. Natasha Jonas is still a champion.
And now they've got another one in Nick Ball, whose all-action pressure fighting style isn't hard for the boxing fan to digest. Even the casual boxing fan can appreciate the violence he provides. Ball's homecoming was a huge success via him producing an all-action performance against the 34-year-old Rios and battling through a broken nose to drop him twice before eventually stopping him in the 10th round. I always knew I had him hurt, Ball continued. I could see in his eyes that he was broken. He was getting out of the stool drained, so I knew I just had to keep it on him, but at the same time take my time, stay switched on. He was dangerous at all times in there. I knew I was getting to him, but it was just a matter of when, and it finally came. I've been hit by harder punchers, but he was landing clean, with right hands and jabs, what I shouldn't be getting hit with. As you can see from my nose, that it's broken, isn't it?
Such is the bane of the pressure fighter. You're a lot likelier to run into punches, run into hard shots when you're the one coming forward, initiating the action. It's gonna happen.
It's a compromise is what it is. You're pushing a pace, you're taking it to the other guy, but as a result of that, you're likelier to get hit. That's not to say that pressure fighters don't have their own brand of defense, because they do.
Slip and counter, roll and counter, catch and counter.
Nick's got to protect himself better, because he is just one of 4 world champions at this weight, and given his ambitions, it's only a matter of time before he is so confronted with another champion like himself. He's already fought 2.
Raymond Ford and Ray Vargas. Ray, who he wants a rematch with.
I've been hit by harder punches, but he was landing clean with right hands and jabs, what I shouldn't be getting hit with. As you can see from my nose, that's boxing, isn't it? Every fight you learn, and I've definitely learned from that one, so I'll be taking it into the next fight. Ball's focus has firmly been on Rios, but that changed after the fight when he named a rematch with Vargas and a potential fight with undisputed super bantamweight champion Naoya Inoue as potential options. I need a shot at Vargas because that's my belt, he said. I should have it on this other shoulder, but it's coming. Everything happens for a reason, so only time will tell. Now, Nick has a mandatory challenger in the queue in former unified champion Stephen Fulton, though it's conceivable that they could get Stephen Fulton to stand down and step aside if Nick can convince Ray Vargas to fight him again.
What makes you think he can?
Ray hasn't done a hell of a lot since that Nick Ball fight, where Nick Ball came right back to Saudi for another title fight with another champion. Ray's been in limbo.
Since the Ray Vargas fight, Nick Ball's fought 2 times, against Raymond Ford and this past weekend against Ronnie Rios.
So when you see how much Nick Ball is doing and how much Ray Vargas isn't doing, if things don't pick up and he can't find somebody to fight, they can't find nothing for him to do, maybe he goes back to Saudi for the rematch.
The first fight was a tale of 2 halves, because Ray Vargas was boxing all right in the first half of the fight, but the second half of the fight, things got rough and tumble, rough and rugged, the way Nick Ball likes it. Questionable knockdown.
I vaguely recall Nick Ball scoring 2 knockdowns in that fight, and one of them looked like he judo tossed him or pushed him down.
They counted it as a knockdown, though.
That's what you gotta do to those finesse fighters. That's what you gotta do to those sugarfoot fighters like Ray Vargas. Yes, he's a Mexican national who has a lot of height and a lot of length, but he's not an artillery fighter. He's not a firepower guy. He's a thinking man's boxer.
He's a cerebral fighter. Don't think that every fighter out of Mexico is a pressure guy. They're not.
Ray Vargas isn't. But along with Ray Vargas, Nick Ball has someone else in his crosshairs. He said, everyone is going on about Inoue's name, aren't they? He's a super bantamweight. There isn't any super bantamweights calling him out, but obviously if he comes up to my weight, I'm going to show him who the man is at this weight. Of course, I'd fight him 100%. He's a quality fighter, and everyone is speaking of us fighting, so of course I would. Ball had paid to visit the Liverpool Football Club's iconic Enfield earlier in the week to promote his date with Rios. Fighting there would be next level, Ball said. I was there this week for the Champions League against Bologna with my dad, and that was a special night. I said to him, imagine fighting here. I'm gonna make it happen, so hopefully one day it does. I think that if Nick Ball and Naoya Inoue were to ever share the ring, it's either in Saudi or in Japan, but not in Liverpool.
You're dreaming.
Where Naoya Inoue is now, a 4-division, 2-time undisputed champion, he's not going to make that kind of a concession to Nick because he already makes more money than Nick. And that's saying a lot because Nick's one of the few guys at featherweight who can actually draw.
The other three are not as well known. Angelo Leo, Rafael Espinoza, Ray Vargas.
I've long maintained that Nick Ball has all the ingredients to become a superstar, right down to the cult following in his native Liverpool. But he's not in a place where he's making a base purse of $6 million like Naoya Inoue.
And that's not counting endorsements. That's not counting sponsorships and other arms of revenue. The amount of celebrity that Inoue has in Japan compared to Nick in Liverpool, it's not even close.
Inoue's a megastar there, so like I said, if Naoya Inoue were to ever fight Nick Ball, I figure it either goes down in Japan or Saudi, but it don't go down in Liverpool.
The fight.
You have to wonder how much of his power he would carry up to a 5th weight class, because that's what that would be for Inoue. A 5th division against a very rough and rugged fighter, a physically strong fighter who often judo tosses guys that are bigger than he is around a ring.
Right?
I view the Nick Ball fight as perhaps the most winnable fight for Inoue at a 5th weight class. Emphasis on most. It's all relative. Those other assignments might be a lot more awkward because Rafael Espinoza, Ray Vargas, these are taller, much taller, longer guys.
Those boys are huge for 126 pounds.
Whereas Nick is more pint-sized, more bite-sized, likely eye-level to Naoya Inoue. He's just a beefier guy, beefier, sturdier guy. Ronnie Rios busted his nose all up. What would Inoue do to it? Though at the same time, Luis Neri knocked Inoue down, knocked him down for the first time in his career. At a 5th weight, Inoue would have to be in rare form. He'd have to be on his P's and Q's more than he's ever been before, because he cannot afford to let these guys hit him.
It's asking a lot, you know? A guy as small as Inoue to go up to a 5th division. He's not done at super bantamweight yet. We are not on the eve of a move upstairs for Inoue, though at first glance, I get the sense Nick Ball can give him a fight.
That ain't gonna be no walk in the park. Who's had a walk in the park with Nick?
Nobody.
He's a firecracker, that guy is. He's an artillery fighter, and he stays in character, fight by fight. For better or worse, Nick Ball applies pressure through and through. For a smaller fighter moving up in weight, to have somebody so rough and tumble, so physical, it's a tough assignment.
I absolutely think Nick Ball can hurt Naoya Inoue.
But I also happen to think he knew he can bust his nose up worse than Ronnie Rios did, a 34-year-old Ronnie Rios.
Inoue's a much faster guy. If any of that power carries from 122 up to 126, he can do some damage too. That's a very good fight for when the time comes.